All right. Um, I have to address it. And in case you haven't heard, Hulk Hogan has died. Um, well, a lot of people died. Malcolm Jamal Warner died, Ozzy Osbourne died, and now Hulk Hogan. Literally, all two people died in one day, and then Hogan was right after. Um, in the case of Hogan and Malcolm Jamal Warner, but it's mostly Hogan, this is a good chance to talk about um, the dichotomy of people, the duality of people, right? So, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, whatever you want to call it, that category of people, they have the luxury of having two, if not more than two, identities. What does that mean? Hulk Hogan basically put wrestling on the map. Vince McMahon mortgaged like everything that he had. They did the first WrestleMania, and Hogan was a big part of that. Hogan ended up doing movies, a cartoon show, other TV appearances. He basically started the media, the press rounds that wrestlers do this day and age. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, you wouldn't get not just WWE, but you wouldn't get people trying to be wrestlers. You wouldn't get AEW. You wouldn't get TNA. Um, you wouldn't get cultural exchanges with Japan, with Mexico, with the UK, England, right? Different types of wrestling, different styles. Now, was Hogan controversial? Was he racist? This is where the duality comes in. Hulk Hogan was not racist. Hulk Hogan was not biased. Um, Hulk Hogan was not discriminatory. Do you know who was? Terry Bollea. Hulk Hogan's real name is Terry Bollea. Died 71 years of age. Hulk Hogan is a persona. Hulk Hogan is a character. Hulk Hogan is an icon, a symbol. Terry Bollea is just the man. Terry Bollea is the one that created that identity. But Hogan was not born Hogan. Hogan was born Terry Bollea. So, why is this important? Why is this key? Because a lot of fans or people that hear of Hogan and all his scandals, they need to understand. From a business, an industry, a trend-setting perspective, Hulk Hogan was not discriminatory. He was not racist. He was not bigoted. The man who portrayed him, Terry Bollea, could have been those things. And we do have proof that he was racist, that he can be bigoted. So that's true, right? But two things can be true at the same time. Terry Bollea can be a problem. He can be discriminatory. He can be racist. But on the flip side, Hulk Hogan can be the opposite. This is definitely important because wrestling in general is a very underrated and underrepresented industry. A lot of outcasts, a lot of people on the fringes of society, and a lot of people that do not or cannot really find solace in a regular life are the ones who contribute to wrestling. Veterans. A lot of wrestlers are former military. Swerve Strickland, military. Steve Macklin, military. I mean, Sergeant Slaughter was a goddamn sergeant. Not in the military, but at least his character, although he did serve. Randy Orton was a Marine. He got discharged dishonorably, but he was still a Marine. So these are things that you have to understand, right? People like them, military, whatever, sometimes they can't go back to civilian life. So what does that mean? It means they are on the fringes of society. What made wrestling popular? Hulk Hogan. Hogan made wrestling a legitimate business and a lifestyle that some of these people can go to. As another example, right? Because everyone wants to talk about Hogan being racist. No, Terry Bollea was. But a lot of black people are actually, or people who have been in trouble, incarcerated, actually used wrestling as an outlet. So, speaking of military, Bobby Lashley was military, but MVP, he was in prison. He was locked up. He actually converted to Islam and learned about wrestling while he was locked up. So he decided to exercise and study and do whatever he could, and he ended up being in WWE. Booker T is a more famous example. Booker T, dropped out of high school, got picked up in Houston, and everybody knows Booker T, right? Ends up in WCW, TNA, WWE, tag team, world heavyweight champion, right? That's Booker. On the other, you have another example, people like the Briscoes, Mark and Jay Briscoe. Even though one of them is dead now, they're just straight up country boys. They're not pretty. They don't care about society necessarily. They just do what they need to do. And then you have Ric Flair, as crazy as he is. In fact, everybody loves Ric Flair. That's why there's so many songs about him. Nature Boy, Ric Flair drip, his swag. Everybody's going woo all the time. You can't have that without Hulk Hogan. You can't have these other icons. You can't have these other legends. You can't have this alternative route if you don't have Hulk Hogan. So, was Hogan a racist? No. Terry Bollea was. Was Hogan good for the industry? Yeah. And that's how we should remember him. Remember the artists for their art, not for their personal struggles. Their personal struggles can play into the art. So yes, Hogan's, Terry Bollea's issues can play into his wrestling. In fact, a lot of wrestlers are pretty much products of their personal issues. Jake the Snake, Brian Pillman, Kurt Angle with taking 100 goddamn Percocets a day because he had so much freaking pain, right? Eddie Guerrero dying from heart failure because he was addicted to drugs because of the pain of the lifestyle. Chris Benoit hitting his goddamn head so much that He got CTE to the point where he murders his family and himself, right? These things, people don't understand that. These things pop up as alternatives for people who have these problems. And if anything, Hulk Hogan is one of those guys that was always able to separate his business from his personal until he couldn't, right? If you get caught on tape, you get caught on tape. Let's just appreciate Hogan for Hogan, and if you want to make racist comments, be sure to at least say that it's Terry Bollea. Don't talk about Hogan in a negative light like that, because it's not Hogan. It's Terry Bollea. And at the end of the day, WWE became WWE because of Hulk Hogan. And even if you didn't like WWE, if you liked WCW on TNT, that came out because of WWE. If you like TNA, that came out because WCW died and an alternative needed to be created. And if you like AEW, that came out specifically because WWE was the only company, technically. All of these things are chains of events that Hogan is responsible for, both directly and indirectly. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be liked by everybody. Teddy Long didn't have a problem with Hogan. Booker didn't have a problem with Hogan. Mr. T didn't have a problem with Hogan. And they were best friends on TV. If Hogan makes a racist comment, it's really because he's addressing one particular person. And even if he's not, you always have the exception to the rule. Remember, people don't have to like you, and everyone's going to like you or dislike you no matter what you do, right? SmackDown did the tribute to Hogan. Raw's probably going to do it. AEW might do it on Saturday. Last night, TNA did it. The show that I work with is probably going to do some sort of tribute to Hogan. You can't escape it. So let's just realize what Hogan did for his industry, for a business that we love. I love it. And let's just take all the negative comments and just bring it to Terry's grave. Because when Hogan gets buried, it's not going to say Hulk Hogan. That gravestone is going to say Terry Bollea. And that's where you got to leave your complaints. Everybody, but celebrities are the best example of this, is a duality. And that is authentic.